Welcome to another music therapy video. I'm John Thuen, a mental health therapist, and today we are listening to DAX's Depression. I am excited. Let's get into it. What a powerful image to depict depression, like a ship sailing alone in a stormy sea, a man screaming primally shirtless. Absolutely. Depression can make us feel so isolated, so alone, and like the world is against us. Like very symbolic of the ocean and the storm in that video. So let's see how this plays out.
I can't find myself. I get lost inside my brain. Think I might need help, but I pushed all them away. I took the cause they did.
Yeah, this idea of needing help so desperately but pushing them away, that is the shame of depression, the shame, the stigma associated with mental health that can keep you from receiving the help that you so desperately need. And one thing that I will stress again and again is we need people in our lives. We need support in order for us to thrive and bloom and flourish in our lives. And the hardest thing some of the time is asking for help, especially when we need it the most.
And there's nothing I can change. So when I'm by myself, I just pray for brighter days. Sometimes I sit and I reminisce about the good times. Wish I could get those back. I keep on running these races that go in my mind, and they go on these tracks. I'm not ready to erase all my memories. I fight depression and I let it get the best of me. Now there's nowhere to run.
Wow, so I'm curious what this camera depicts of him in his house, just how his antics when he's depressed, right? So he goes outside, he sees a dog, the dog barks at him. It looks like he takes it a bit too seriously, like the world's against me. I can't go outside my own house because it's unsafe and I feel attacked and I'm not well. And so he runs back inside. That's such a powerful image. The avoidance we see from depression and the shame of talking about it and the shame of who we are as people instead of feeling pride and having courage for who we are as a person today.
Run, nowhere to go. Look around, there's liquor bottles all on the floor.
Yeah, so one of the most common ways we see to self-medicate for depression is through addiction. We see an 80% comorbidity, which means that mental health and substance abuse go hand in hand 80% of the time. That means around 20% of people do not have a mental health problem, but they do have addiction. So alcohol is a great instant short-term coping skill for addiction, but it's maladaptive and it does lead to some problems that include alcoholism, driving drunk, potential alcohol poisoning, all of these things. And we know alcohol is a depressant, which means that it has depressant symptoms on our nervous system. One contraindication though, or counterpoint, is that alcohol actually increases your heart rate, which is kind of interesting because most people think that it would reduce it being a depressant, but alcohol has lots of subtle physiological effects.
Filling up the space inside my heart and my home, drowning out these thoughts until they leave me alone. I can't find myself. I get lost inside my brain. Think I might need help, but I pushed all them away.
Yeah, this idea of being lost inside your own brain. I'm sure we've been there with some social media, with some time in our life, and how do we get out of it? It's such a profound question. It varies person to person, and sometimes just talking about it and getting a different person's perspective on it can go a long way. Just make sure you're talking to a good person that cares about you for who you are and not just you for like a transactional relationship like alcohol or to get something from you.
The cards they dealt, and there's nothing I can change. So when I'm by myself, I just pray for brighter days. These thoughts are draining all my energy. I try to tell him the God, he said.
I love it. The postman gives him a pamphlet. He says, "Try therapy," and he smiles at him. What a powerful image. Yeah, depression is something that is completely addressable in a one-on-one or a group therapy setting. I have worked with many people who are clinically depressed. One difference between clinical depression and congruent depression is like, oh, a traumatic event just happened in your life, like your mom died or your brother died, that leads to depressive symptoms. Clinical depression is depression despite depression without those circumstantial depressive episodes. So it lasts longer typically than congruent depression because it's more long-term scale, where congruent depression is based on like tragic life events. And it seems like DAX here, maybe it's hard for me to say if he has clinical or congruent depression.
I'm going insane, and then they recommended therapy. And I go and talk to a man who's getting paid to explain. He started saying that the chemical imbalance is the reason that my brain ain't connecting to accomplishments associated with moving on in life and past the things that my heart cannot contain. So the happiness won't sustain. And he read me my options. He said, here goes a pill, only take 2 to eat a meal, and they don't know how I feel.
Wow. Yeah, a lot there. So depression sometimes does have a chemical imbalance in the brain and sometimes it doesn't. There's new and emerging evidence around depression not being a chemical imbalance in the brain, and it's kind of controversial at the moment. And depression medication can absolutely not numb how you feel, and it absolutely can help you in ways that traditional talk therapy cannot. So if you are a candidate for prescription depression medication, then I would talk to your doctor about it very seriously, and I would consider it because medical options are a great intervention for clinical depression.
I can't find myself. I get lost inside my brain. Think I might need help, but I pushed off them away. I took the cards they dealt, and there's nothing I can change. So when
I love that image of him sitting there with all of his stuff splattered all around the floor, because when you're not caring about your own life, it's hard to care about the space around you. And one thing that helps is if you declutter the space, it declutters your mind. So something as simple as like picking up those 5 things on the floor gives you a sense of accomplishment. It gives you a sense of purpose in your life, and it declutters the brain, because every time you walk past that kitchen, per se, and there's stuff all over the floor, then you're going to be reminded of it, and that's going to be a negative thought that you could otherwise have had a positive thought during.
So when I'm by myself, I just pray for brighter days. Should I drown all these thoughts or should I leave them to float? I've got all of my flaws living inside of this boat. I've been anchored in pain, the weight is making me choke.
Wow, a lot there. I love that. He asks, should I drown these thoughts or let them float? Should I drown these thoughts with medication and numb them, which is what he's saying, or should I let them float and continue to deal with them? And this is what we see a lot with men. Men specifically think that they are resilient and tough enough to deal with their mental health problems without any therapy, without any medical intervention. And this leads to really sad outcomes. And we all need help, even if we're a man, even if we're a young man and very strong, very capable. I'm sure a lot of you are. And there is no shame in asking for the help that we need.
inside of this boat. I've been anchored in pain, the weight is making me choke. It's getting harder to breathe, it's pulling right at my throat. I've been hoping for change, but don't know how to restart.
Yeah, so those feelings of depression can lead to shortness of breath, heart palpitations, butterflies in the chest, constrictions of the throat. There are lots of physical symptoms of depression that can help you, that can hurt if left unaddressed. But one big part that's helped me is being aware of where I'm feeling things in my body, such as if I'm feeling sadness or constriction in my throat or tightness in my chest, maybe that represents stress and tension to me or nervousness to me. And so when you become aware of your body's physical response, then you can address it better by breathing into it and working through those tense feelings in your body.
They say you ain't a man when you're exposing your heart. Then they say you insane until it tips.
Yeah, you are absolutely a man if you expose your heart. If you wear your heart on your sleeve and you're honest and authentic about who you are, what you want, how you feel, then you will be much better off than those who do not. I believe that the reason men have higher suicide rates than females is because we are taught and conditioned to not express our feelings, to not be authentic. And what happens when we do not express our true authentic feelings is it leads to mental illness. It leads to psychopathology, which is a fancy way of saying like the root of mental health problems. So we need to really consider how social norms, sex roles, men not being able to talk about their feelings plays into problems in society, and normalize talking about our feelings as men, for sure.
As you apart and then they cut you so deep and they can tell by the scars. We can only see change when we accept who we are. Try to run.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I have to do as a therapist is accept people where they're at all the time. I cannot sit there and judge and point the finger and say, you need to do this. No, absolutely not. Only when we approach ourselves or others from an attitude of non-judgment can we see change internally or externally.
From the shame and you won't never give up. Don't you bottle the pain and live your life in the dark. You're meant to break from those chains and shine as bright as a star. Yeah. Don't you ever tell yourself that your depression is the reason you won't make it, or that happiness is not in your cards. With our God you can.
Yes, absolutely. I love the imagery of the beginning of feeling like he is in a storm and now he's in a tranquil sea, looking like he's at peace and he's overcoming seemingly somewhat of his depression. There is light at the end of the tunnel, even though it feels dark in the moment. There is light. There is hope.
Beat all the odds, keep your faith, and you'll never be lost and say, I can't find myself. I get lost inside my brain. Think I might need help. I think I might, but I pushed off them away. I took the cards they dealt, and there's nothing I can change. So when I'm by myself, I just pray for brighter days.
I love it. That is such a beautiful image of him overcoming the trials and tribulations of his depression, of fighting the storm, and to see that beautiful sunny day with the clouds in the sky on the horizon is the reason we have to fight. We all need a reason to fight. And whether that's for someone else, for ourselves, or just to see that light at the end of the tunnel, to know that it gets better. Okay. And he discovers that the beautiful blue sky that he's seeing was a prop and that it's not real. And that's really how it is with depression, right? Because you see the light at the end of the tunnel and it feels like you're there. It feels like you've arrived and that it's always going to be better. But no, sometimes it persists and you got to stay thorough and you got to stay consistent with your taking medication, going to therapy, working on those coping skills, exercising, taking care of yourself in terms of sleep, diet, exercise, all of those things. Because sometimes that feeling that you're cured from depression can be an illusion. Sometimes it's not that easy and it does take longer work. But stay consistent and stay patient, and you'll get there, absolutely. If you have any thoughts, comments, or observations about this video, please leave them in the comments. And if you would please like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend, I would greatly appreciate it. And as usual, I really appreciate you being here and watching this video, and I will see you in the next music therapy video.